Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and I've got a pretty interesting combination today that I have some really high hopes for. Hopefully with this one we can have another kind of budget combination. Now it is a TSS load, but it is a budget TSS load at that. But those loads are some of the Herter's TSS loads. Like I just said, they are budget for a TSS load, but for some people $45 is still a little bit much for a turkey shell, and I don't disagree, but it is TSS, so you kind of get what you get with that. But either way, these are a 12 gauge 2 3/4 inch shell, 1.5 ounce of number 9s, going 1200 feet per second. And it's been a little while since we've seen those Herter shells on the channel, but they have been lights out performers for what they are. And I'm just gonna say it, those Herter shells shoot better than anything else on the store shelf right now as far as TSS loads go. Really, the only way you might be able to match them or get better is for some custom loads like the Vipers or the Salt Creek stuff, or maybe the Apex loads as well. But point being, those are the best TSS shell on the store shelf right now, in my opinion. But for the setup we're using today, I brought back out my Remington 1187 Premier again. However, I threw in this choke. This is a Colonial RCTK2 choke. It's their extra full 675 constriction choke, and clearly there's no porting or anything like that on it. And this choke, I want to say, is about 30 bucks. So definitely a quote-unquote budget setup here. But this choke has shown some really impressive results so far with some other testing, and we have never tested some of these Herter shells out of this choke. So I'm really curious to see what a 675 constriction from this 1187 can actually do with a TSS load like that. But as per usual, the turkey target is set up over here at 40 yards. I do also have my chronograph, so we'll see how close we can actually get to the 1200 posted box velocity there. So let's take you guys over and get you a view of the target. I'll head up, we'll shoot our shot, we'll glance at what chronograph number we had, and then we'll go see how they did. So let's go over here and shoot them and see what this old school Colonial 675 can do with these Herter's TSS shells. Alright, so that shell gave us 1,332 feet per second across the chronograph. So that load was moving out pretty quick there, especially when the box called for 1,200. But chances are they probably tested that out of a shorter barrel than what I have on that 1187, since that is a more field-oriented barrel. But either way, I think we've got some pretty impressive results down on the target. So let's go check those out and see how it actually did. Alright, so we're down here now at our 40-yard target, and this is just ridiculous for a budget 2 3/4 inch TSS load like that, off the shelf by a big box store name brand like that. And this just goes to show why you always check your zero with the load and choke that you want to go out and hunt with. Because I checked my zero right before this test with just some cheap loads through that exact choke, and we were right on the money. So that just goes to show that the shell can make a difference just like the choke can. If you shoot a different shell, your 0 point is going to move just a little bit. But regardless, we still have an absolutely dead bird here. There's like 12 or 13 in the brain and a couple more in the spine down there. And just off to the right here, I mean, that is a basketball sized ball of shot going downrange at 40 yards. That is nasty no matter what way you look at it. And as for flyers, I mean, we had a couple down here maybe, and just a couple over on this side, but man, you cannot argue with that kind of a pattern right there. That is really close to perfect in my opinion. You have a nice concentrated core, but it still gives you about 12 to 14 inches of leeway or so. Because, I mean, you see, we were off to the right a good amount here, and that bird is still absolutely crushed. So that right there, you cannot argue with that. That's why I said these Herter shells are probably the best off-the-shelf load available right now. So do not overlook these Herter's TSS loads. I would say the guys over at Winchester have it figured out. I mean, the lead side of things with the longbeard loads are lights out, And clearly these new Herter's TSS loads, which are produced by Winchester, they got it figured out with these TSS loads as well, because you can't argue with that kind of a pattern right there at all. That is ridiculous, even through a 675 constriction choke. We've seen these things perform like this through everything from a 655 all the way up through like a 680 in the Mossberg 835, and these things just keep performing. So after it's all said and done, we have a dead bird, and we have a vicious looking pattern right there at 40 yards. There's no question about that. That would absolutely demolish a bird. All right, and this is the wad they're using in those Herter shells. It's this orangey color wad, but it looks pretty similar to what you would see in a longbeard load. Maybe just a little bit shorter because it is only a 2 3/4 inch shell, but I mean, there's no rips or tears or anything like that in here. It never had any kind of a gas base on it or anything like that, so we're good there. They do have these tiny little styrofoam felt pieces down in there, which clearly do their job because there's nothing in here as far as shot goes or anything like that. This is just a very basic wad design, but man, does it seem to really work for these shells. So nothing really too special to see here. It did its job clearly, obviously, for this test. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that kind of performance? Once again, I wish it was a little bit more centered up, but that's why you go out and test your stuff before you just take it out into the woods. But that is just a lights out performance yet again. Those shells just shoot no matter what way you look at it. So don't overlook those shells. If you want to use TSS and you're not quite keen on spending 60, 70, 80 plus dollars ordering shells online and stuff like that, just go to Cabela's and pick these things up. The Federals and the Brownings and all that other stuff, they're not going to touch these shells. But what do you guys think about it? Is that what you really expected to see, or were you a little bit surprised, or what? And how do you think they did through that 675 old school Colonial choke like that? That choke has been pretty impressive so far from what little bit we have tested it. But on that note, I've got some more testing to get back to doing, so stay tuned because we've got plenty more stuff coming out. And with that being said, I'll see y'all in the next one.